All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to another event uh, in ROI-based Agile coaching. Today, we have a former participant of our webinars, Kejo Chao, and that's how I met him during the COVID times. And he's come back as a speaker. We're going to learn about Kejo's tool that he's created, the agility map, and how you can apply it in the context of AI adoption. All right. So, introduction, housekeeping. Before we get started, a few topics I need to go through. Just an intro about our meetup. We don't have a next event, so this will be a call for speakers. I'll talk about my company. Let's talk about my introduction. My goal is to help tech companies make money and achieve their financial goals, but in a kind and a humane way. Uh, Today, this session is being recorded. You'll be in listen-only mode. For interaction, there will be the Q&A panel, so I'll be monitoring that. I've been having issues with the chat panel, but I think I've worked it out with Zoom technical support, so we're going to test it in a little bit. If it doesn't work, please accept my apology. We'll figure something else out, a workaround. Uh, we want you to ask as many questions as you can, but this is a free 60-minute webinar. So I want to set realistic expectations. It's possible not all questions will be answered. And KJ has been gracious and kind. If you want to have a more detailed conversation, you can apply for a 20-minute call. He's busy. So based on his availability, it's possible that he might be willing to have a complimentary call with a few people. Okay. I want to test the chat panel. So would you be willing to send a message, a chat message? I want to see Karen is here. Welcome, Karen. I want to send a message, test message, and I want to see if you guys can get it. If you do get the message and if you are, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I got a Hey Ravi message from Patrick. Thank you so much. So it looks like chat is working. And Karen, if you are comfortable, I would love to get a chat message from you as well. And then let's test out the Q&A panel. Um, if you guys can just put like a dummy question, one of you in the Q&A panel. So those will be the two primary ways. Okay, dummy question. Very good. All right. Thank you so much, Patrick, for your help. All right. So chat is working. Uh, I got a chat message from Karen as well. Okay, good. Chat is working and Q&A is working. So pretty soon I'm going to hand over controls and the share to KJ. And then while KJ is presenting, I will be monitoring your questions and comments. Okay. All right. Um, our meetup, we've got regulars here. So, we started off as Agile DevOps and we switched. And our goal is always to find topics at the intersection of ROI, agility, and coaching. Try to be on a cadence Wednesday or Thursday, 11 to 12 Central, like today. Uh, Unfortunately, we had to switch from meetup to the webinar. I think you guys were there. You experienced it firsthand, the trauma. So you understand. And the recording will be available on the YouTube channel, Org Whisperers YouTube channel. Okay. I don't have an next event scheduled. So if anyone wants to speak, just, KJ was an attendee, just like you guys are attendees today. And we established a connection and now he's back as a speaker. So if you feel called to speak, you have wisdom to offer to the world that nobody else has. So if you feel called to speak, I would love to have you speak in the future. I want to tell you a little bit about my company. My goal is to help tech firms basically make money, but in a kind and a humane way, and to use teams as the powerhouse for achieving their goals and to create inspiring leaders. When I was in tech, when I was in management, there was rarely any budget for training. So I was just winging it. And my goal is to offer as many free resources as I can and to offer training and coaching for leaders in tech who are so stressed out within their budgetary constraints. So that's my goal. Some symptoms of my ideal customers are they have frustrated customers because it takes too long to get releases, too many defects, bad experience. Because of that, customers start leaving. So now you have low revenue, low profits. Now your investors are frustrated. Management feels the pressure from investors and they transfer it usually onto the teams. Now the teams get demoralized. It's a vicious cycle. And ultimately, hardworking people who want to go to work to do good things, they just don't have the right space. So it's a destruction of human potential. And that's the vicious cycle I want to disrupt. So if you know of anyone who's experiencing this, especially a leader in tech who doesn't have budget to be trained, to get coaching, uh, doesn't have as much as maybe they like, but they want help, they're desperate for help, please refer them to me. We'll figure something out. Typically, my services fall into four broad pillars. I help with leadership development, I help with product management, I help with high performing teams. And then if you have a few pockets of high performing teams or products, you want to scale it across the company, I can help with scaling as well. So that's an overview. If you think we can help, you can learn more at orgwhisperers.com and you can send me a message, phone or email, or just message me on LinkedIn. Okay. So with that, I want to introduce you to KJ. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing so that KJ can take the share. So give me one moment. And while KJ is pulling up the share, I want to tell you a little bit about how our relationship started. So in the COVID days, when I switched to an online format, so I had created a canvas for coaches to get alignment with their sponsors or their client, to avoid that very common tension between agile coaches and their clients where they want different things. So I'd created a canvas and I asked for a volunteer on the meetup to take the canvas for a test drive. And KJ was kind enough to model that. And he made an impression. And many, I don't know, years later, we met in person in I think in Improving. And I just
Yep.
remembered because KJ had made a very positive impact. And that's the power of community. So I requested KJ's help to come back as a speaker. He was kind enough to accept my request. And here he is. This is a really powerful tool. And you can use this tool to do a diagnostic for any company that is navigating any major change, especially AI adoption. So I'm so excited that KJ will share this tool with you. And then if it resonates and you want to take it for a test drive, I hope you will reach out. So KJ, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you. And please tell us anything else you would like us to know about you. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ravi. I really appreciate the opportunity to share the agility map as a tool to the agile community here in DFW. And if we have people dialing in or joining from other places more globally, this is a tool that I would like to share with you, and I will probably spend about 15 to 20 minutes going through the tool, and then we're going to have a Q&A session where I can explain certain aspects of the tool that you're interested in or you want to know more about. And then if you wanted to catch up and would like to know more about the tool, just reach out to me. I'll give you my contact information at the end of this presentation deck. So I'm just going to dive right in. I'm just going to run through the initial few slides pretty quickly just to set the stage, and then we're going to go from there. So a little bit about myself. As of now, I'm working mostly in the capacity of organizational coaching coach, and I'm an agilist. I've been in the agile space for 20 some years. And prior to that, I was an engineer. I've worked with, at, and for different companies. Most of them are larger corporations, but I really enjoy working with small to mid-sized companies. So depending on your situation, I think I'll be interested in sharing this tool with small to mid-sized companies a little bit more because I think they're probably at a better position to adopt tools like this. So I love to solve complex problems. If you have read the book, The Team of Teams, or you understand that difference between complex and complicated problems. You understand what I'm talking about. Basically, complex problems are unpredictable. There are too many variables to have a deterministic outcome, whereas complicated problems are like a Swiss watch. It's complex, it's complicated, but certain input will guarantee a certain output. So, but my interest is more on the complex side. Initially, I created a agility map out of frustration from many agile transformation attempts. I'm trying to figure out the root cause of some of the lack of good results and things like that. So that was initially the reason I created it. But later on, I found that the tool is actually applicable to many other areas, such as Gen AI adoption and many other places. So just to understand the audience a little bit, can you in the chat sort of type your current role or your primary focus of your career? Is it agilist? Is it more on the product side? Is it more people management? If you could type that, I think that'll give me a sense of what area that you're in and what you're interested as I'm going through this. And Ravi, for some reason, when I turn on the presentation mode, I don't see the chat anymore or the Zoom window. So if you could just let me know, that'd be good. Okay, so we're going to move on. A little bit of a context of where we are. About 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, when Agile first came to the scene, I think a lot of the hype around Agile or Agile ways of working is about change, right? But as we can see since then, especially until the last 2 to 5 years with COVID, Gen AI, I think we can all agree the speed of change is steadily accelerating many different areas. And I found this is an interesting chart. This is a chart of um, bankruptcy filings in the United States. As you can see, it stayed stable and it actually dipped a little bit in the first couple of years of COVID, and then it just shot right up. And with the projection, we're seeing that there will be many, many more bankruptcies in the coming years, in 2026 and beyond. So what caused that? A lot of it is because of what we talked about earlier, things that we don't have control over, right? Even if you're in the C-suite, you can't control the macroeconomics, the geopolitical situation, the pandemic, and then the advancement of the technology. This is actually we're facing either as agilists, agile practitioners, or as executives in different companies. So what can we do about it? Similar to Agile, let's just use AI as an example. As we're talking about transformation or adoption or change, we actually see similar patterns. For example, in Agile, if you have been in the Agile space for a while, you will probably notice that the top leadership, oftentimes they um, stop tracking or they don't know how to track value delivery. Instead, they just settled on tracking busyness. Things like number of stories closed, how we're doing on the roadmap, and things like that. So they're basically ended up measuring output instead of outcome. I think you're probably most audience will be familiar with those terms. So that's the top leadership, and then the managers, especially on the engineering side, when you're in an agile transformation effort, you'll often notice that they keep pushing back either aggressively or more of a passive aggressive manner. And then that makes you wonder, the agile ways of working is so much better. Why aren't they welcoming them, right? Questions like that will come up. And then at the team level, you may have experienced the team keeps bringing up the same issues over and over in the retrospectives, and they feel there's nothing they could do to improve the situation. So I think as agile practitioners, we all have probably witnessed or experienced these to some extent. But if you look at AI, you actually see similar patterns. At the top leadership level, I don't know how many of them truly understand the potential or the risks of AI, but you might have leaders, they just wanted to check the box and say, okay, we as an organization or as a company is using AI, just like in Agile, you will have leaders just want to check the Agile box, right? It's very similar. And you'll have different types of pushbacks from engineering managers, and you'll have teams that are using it that are being impacted by it, but they feel their feedback is not reaching the decision makers. So these are the situations that we're facing, but internal transformation, internal changes, adoption is what we have control over, unlike the macroeconomics, the geopolitics that we mentioned earlier. So, in order for us to not only survive but thrive in this fast changing environment, I think we need to go back to some of the agile principles. Um, Before I say that, I want to quickly touch on um, the root causes of those issues that I listed before. They're very similar, agile or Gen AI transformation. And I would say these are the root causes. It's mostly we're implementing, hugely impactful changes, but we are implemented in a very rigid way. It is more ironic in an agile transformation because, if you think about the agile principles, we want to welcome change, we want to be flexible, we want to be agile. But the way oftentimes we implement an agile transformation is very rigid. I think it's the same for a lot of AI transformations that are happening today. And part of that is because we don't have shared understanding of what agility AI is or can do for us, and how do we measure the value, the outcome of it. And then we often focus on just one area of the change instead of a more balanced view, which I will explain a little bit more once we get to the details of the agility map. And then we often have unclear connection between the activities or the solutions and the business outcomes. So those are the things that I wanted to address by using this tool. One way of looking at it is oftentimes we're having a solution looking for a problem to solve. In medical terms, it's called prescription before diagnosis. So in medical terms, that is called malpractice. Oftentimes, we're actually at the risk of doing something similar. For those who have been in the agile space for a while, you probably will notice a meme like this. It says agile. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what it means. I'm dating myself by sharing that, but I think a lot of you probably have seen this. But if you think about AI, it's actually exactly the same way. Everybody's using the word AI, but I don't know if they mean the same thing or they're expecting the same thing out of any kind of AI adoption. So, in order to really find our footing and to be able to navigate through this complex situation, I think we need to answer three questions: where we're heading, which is the desired future state; where are we now, our current state; and how far have we come? Are we projecting to heading to the destination we're trying to head? That's the progress tracking piece. All right. So I would say either agile transformation or AI adoption, they feel like a journey through a foggy terrain because there are a lot of unknowns, there are a lot of variables. To do that, just like when you're hiking through a foggy terrain, you need a map, right? So I think we need a map as well, and I adopted the agility map. It's essentially a 3D map, and I'll explain what that means. But it's a very simple tool. It's very visual, but I'll explain each one of the elements of there, and you can get a better understanding of what it is and what it's trying to accomplish. All right, to understand this agility map, this four quadrants simple tool here, I broke it down into three parts. It's the agility map, the 4-4-2 of agility map. So the first four is called the four quadrants. So I didn't invent this. I actually borrowed it from Ken Wilber's integral model. If you're familiar with that, you will probably get it right away. If not, you might want to Google integral Ken Wilber and read up on it. I don't think we have time to go to dive too deep into that. But basically, in the axes, on the left is interior, on the right is exterior. On the Y or the vertical axis, it's individual on the top and collective at the bottom. Okay. Um, so I borrowed that in the agile or transformation context. So it's almost exactly the same. So left is internal, right is external, up is team instead of individuals. I think agile is a team sport. So we actually put the smallest unit in this context as team, and then the bottom is the enterprise. So how do we use it to build the agility map? So if we're looking at external facing and team or a collection of team facing elements or aspects, we're talking about products and services. So this is the product agility quadrant. We're talking about the product impact, the reach, flexibility, and ROI. All right. And then internal facing at the team level is the team agility. That includes the agile practices, tools, measuring and tracking teams' productivity, the team dynamics. This quadrant is actually, I would say, 70 to 80% of agile transformation. And because of that is, if you look at the whole picture, it's actually not balanced. I think that has led to a lot of the challenges agile practitioners are facing is they're advancing in one quadrant, but not balancing it with the other quadrants. And I'll share a little bit more later. And then we're talking about business agility. That is external facing, but it's at enterprise level. That's the business strategies, the business level objectives, what kind of market share results, as a whole enterprise, external facing, what do we want to do? And that's the business agility piece. And then last but not least, internal facing, but at enterprise level is the organizational agility. We're talking about organizational culture, resiliency versus agility. The founding model is a huge part of this, especially how it supports the agile practices, the product versus project divide, all things like that can be found in the organizational agility piece. All right. And then that's the first four. The second four, I call it the four colors. Reinventing Organization is a very interesting book. If you have read it, you will know what I mean. If not, Google it. They have a actually very nice little diagram to talk about the different stages of organizational development. It's written by Frederic Laloux. And then when you're reading the book, you'll find out actually Frederic actually draw very heavily from spiral dynamics system developed by Graves and Dunbeck. It's another fascinating area if you're interested in human cognitive development or organizational development. But those are relatively complex. So what I did is, and they both schools of thoughts use colors to represent different stages. So what I did is to take a subset of what they have, and then I just took amber, orange, green, and teal as the four colors that are more applicable to the agility map context. So just very quickly to run through this, and then we can probably talk more during the Q&A session if you would like to dive more into it. So the organizational development stages, amber is the more traditional hierarchical structure. So the metaphor for that is in traditional army, where following orders is more important than achieving results to some extent. And as technology and as the society evolves, we now enter the orange stage. This is where incentives, ROIs, market share, I need the results. Oftentimes, I don't really care how you do it. So this is the majority of corporate America or in the Western world. And the metaphor for that is machine, right? A good company is a well-oiled machine. Everybody's doing his or her part to achieve a result. So it's still hierarchical. It's still kind of rigid, um, but it's better when it comes to flexibility and agility compared to a traditional army. And then the agile movement started 25 years ago, was trying to move organizations or the way we work from orange to green. So most agile practices and the assumptions and the principles are actually staying in the green field, in the green stage, which is relational, impact, consensus building. So the metaphor for this stage of product organizational development is a family. We all need to know each other. We need to build a good relationship. We need to have consensus. Until is the next level. The metaphor is living organism is a radically decentralized way of organizing an organization, just like a living organism, like in a forest or a city. But that's not the focus of the map because there are very few companies that are at this stage right now. So, but if you're interested, it's very fascinating. Read the book, Reinventing Organizations. You'll get a lot out of it. All right, I think I'm short on time, so I'm going to move relatively quickly. Um, so the agility map, the four quadrants, four colors, and two principles. This is sort of trying to bring back what I mentioned earlier. The first principle is sustainable agility is achieved by balanced advancement in all four quadrants. So if we're only doing Scrum, trying to implement Scrum activities, but we don't have the product agility, the organizational agility to support it, and we don't have the business agility to give it reason to achieve a certain business goals, you'll find it's not sustainable. You might be able to get them to do it, but as soon as you put the pressure off, they're going to bounce back to the way they were doing it previously. So being able to have a balanced approach is actually essential for any kind of high impact change, whether it's agile or AI. And then the second one, we talk about the colors. The second principle is items in the same color circle synergize as well. If they're not in the same color, they probably won't synergize. Sometimes they can be counterproductive. For example, if we're implementing CI/CD, but the product agility goal is actually not releasing your product every week, then there's no incentive to actually do CI/CD, or vice versa. We're trying to release our product every week, but we don't have the team agility to support it. It's just not going to happen, right? If we don't have the organization to support it, it's not going to happen either. And then we're doing all of the work, but we don't have a clear business goal we're trying to achieve. You're really just doing things for the sake of doing things instead of having a very purposeful way of doing it, right? So these are the 442 of agility map. Robbie, I realize I'm probably running out of time here, so I'm gonna move a little bit quicker.
Actually, KJ, you're
Yeah.
doing really well. So
Okay.
please don't rush yourself.
Don't
So
rush too much.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just follow
All right.
your intuition. You're doing a wonderful job with time management.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, so what I'm showing here on the screen is basically a full agility map template. So in the center, you have the 442 that we just talked about. On the left, we need, just like any good map, you need the true north. So that's the company's core values. What's our non-negotiables? And then underneath that, we have the purpose and the mission. What are we called to do? And then our vision as an organization or as a team. At the team level or product level, you can see that as your team charter or product charter, right? We are having a vision, a future that we're thriving for. What are the true north items? Because you want this to be next to your map. So as you're making decisions, as you are brainstorming different opportunities, you want that to be a constant reminder because those are the goals or the true north you want to aim at, right? So on the right-hand side, because this map is very adaptable, you can use it for many different workshops or discussions at many different levels. So on the left, it's good to have some context. So what's your goal for your map for this particular conversation or exercise? It could be an assessment, it could be a retrospective, it could be a brainstorming session of a change strategy session, that sort of thing. Just put the theme or the goal of this map on there so it reminds you what it is. And also you can use the agility map in different zoom level, just like any map, right? You can do it at the whole organizational level, just the leadership team. It could be a line of business or a specific product or individual team, right? So those are the things you want to know and you want to be consistent about it as you're using this map for different purposes in different situations. And then the lower right corner is the legend. My goal is to keep this as simple as possible. So squares are the current state, rounded squares with rounded corners are the future state, and then the solid arrows are the changes from point A to point B, and the dotted line arrows are the impact. If we do this change, if we achieve the change we're trying to make, what kind of impact it has for the rest of the things on the map. And then you can put a star to highlight, okay, this is our focus for the next month, the next quarter. So you don't have to work on 10 different things at the same time. Just keep your work in progress limit low so you can advance just another agile or lean principle. And then you can put bubbles next to those squares to add additional context if you want. An example would be, let's say this can be used for an OKR session, and then your future state will be your objectives, and you can put a little oval or a bubble next to it as key results to keep everything together. So it's visually easy to read, but you also have enough details to communicate with others. So this is basically a complete agility map template. You can use it for different ways. I developed this as examples to help people understand what to put in which quadrant and which color as an example. I'm going to run through a couple of these very quickly. If you're interested, we can definitely talk more. For example, in the team agility quadrant, if you look at information flow, the first sort of line or tree, the amber organizations, the information flow is mostly top down, right? Here's the task, go get it done in a traditional army or hierarchical situation. In the orange organization, here's the goal, here's the project, go get it done. I need you to tell me whether it's green, yellow, or red. Other than that, don't bother me, right? If it's red, I'm going to ask more questions, but if it's all good, it's all good. So that's a traditional corporate American orange level organization. But if you look at an agile team or agile organization in the green space, the stakeholders are invited to sprint reviews, they're invited to many different communications. We'll have information radiator to go back from bottom to top while the top to bottom communication is still on. And TO is omnidirectional because there's no clear leadership and leaders and doers. So it's very different, but that's not our focus for today. So we're going to skip that. Another example at the product agility space, project versus product is the last one on this slide. So the amber organizations are on an as needed basis. Here's the task, go do it. Don't ask questions, right? The orange organization are mostly project based. Time, people, budget. How do you lever it? It has a beginning and it has an end. Let's get the project done. But in an agile or green organization, it's more product based. So we have more product managers than project managers. We want to develop some products instead of just finishing a project and move on to the other, right? And then the TO organizations are more, okay, learning, experiment, be very fluid on how they organize their work. I'll just make one more and then we'll move on. So the organizational agility space, you could look at the org culture,
Hey
right?
KJ,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have a request from Patrick.
Uh-huh.
Can the legend was a bit hard to read, so can you return to it and zoom in? So Patrick's probably making some notes.
Oh, yeah. You want to grab a screenshot of that?
Yeah,
Here you go.
yeah. And
Okay.
then I
Can
feel
I
it might
zoom?
be possible to zoom in at the client level. I don't know if it's possible to
Yeah.
zoom in at the person who's presenting, but I'm not a Zoom
Mm.
expert, so I don't know.
So Patrick, don't worry about it because I'm going to share the link to a template so you have everything on it. I think Ravi, you can grab it and send it out either as a meetup message or just as a uh,
Yeah,
chat on this session. So
yeah,
I'll have that sent over to you guys. So
yeah.
you'll have this whole template you can play
Yeah.
with.
I think so Patrick is trying to make sense of the diagram. So the
Okay.
legend, so the solid, I mean the rectangle with
Mhm.
the sharp corners is the current
Uh,
state, and the
right.
rectangle, the rounded rectangle is future state.
Hmm.
Solid line is a path, desired
For
path from
change.
current state to future state, and dashed
Hmm.
line is what impact that change may have. And the star is your next stop, so you don't get overwhelmed with too
Hmm.
many goals. Is that correct?
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna show like an example in a little bit that will probably make a little bit more sense because it seems a little bit abstract just by looking at an empty map. Um, so we kind of went through sort of some examples of where to put things and how to put things. Um, there are two things I want to mention that I did not mention earlier, because this map sort of in a way indicate that there's a clear line between the different stages, but in reality, there's a lot of gray area. So when you're using this map, you're trying to decide whether I should put it in orange or put it in green. It really doesn't really matter. There's no one correct answer. You can just put it somewhere in between, right? If you don't want that to be the primary conversation. And then the second thing I want to mention is when I was showing you the spiral, the different colors, in a way, it sort of implicitly indicated there is a hierarchy. The lower ones are not as good as the higher ones, but that's actually not the case because your stage, your organizational development stage, has a lot to do with your macro environment. Let's say during Hurricane Katrina, you actually want everybody to operate in the amber space because at that time, order is more important than anything else. But in a space where we have abundance, we have competition, we have technology, then you want to move more to the green or even teal space because that's where the innovation, the creativity takes place. So one color is not necessarily good or bad or better or worse than the other color. The question is our practice color in the same color as our culture or our environment? So I just want to call that out um, as a caution because I don't want you to have a takeaway where you feel like we're all needing to move to green or even teal. It does not necessarily have to be the case. Okay. So, and we can definitely discuss more about it. And here's an example of what a plotted out map would look like. So you'll have the current state, the future state, you have the different arrows, and then you have stars to say, okay, we're going to work on these things next quarter. I want to show this example so you have a sort of visual impression of what a completed um, agility map may look like. But also note that the stars, in terms of the focus, ideally should spread across all four quadrants. That's sort of adhering to the first principle. You need advancement in all four quadrants in order to have sustainable improvements. So that's an example, and we can circle back to that at a later time. Um, so I just want to quickly run through the benefits and some ways you could use it. I like this map, one, because I created it, and secondly, because I think visualization provides, just like one picture worth a thousand word type of thinking. Visualization can provide a much simpler but richer communication. Uh, either it's just a smaller team or cross-organizational communication. Having visualization is always better. And because it has all four quadrants, it also has a color dimension. It really provides a holistic view of an enterprise or a product line or a team, so that you know that you're not missing uh, any big gap in your analysis, in your thinking. Um, and as you're visualizing things, you'll see patterns, and that encourages meaningful inquiries. Why is everything clustered into one quadrant? What happened to the other ones, right? Um, why is this practice not really yielding the result that we look at in either the product agility or organizational agility side? So this will actually encourage the meaningful inquiries. So that's, I think, the main benefits of using a map like this. Um, so if we want to put the map to work, these are all the different ways, different situations or workshops you could use this map to, right? It could be retrospectives at the team or organizational level. It could be a strategy workshop, or it could be a progress review, even celebration to say, hey, we moved from, like in here, we achieved all the things that we are trying to achieve. Then you can check it off, and it's very visual, and it's very easy to celebrate the achievements, more than just checking off a box or saying we have completed all our stories, right? So these are the different ways you could use it. I understand I'm running this very quickly, um, but I do want to leave some time for us to talk about some of the questions or things you want to zoom in, right? Okay, so that's all the content. Now we're open up for some questions. I think we're probably going to have about 8 minutes for questions, and Ravi, will turn that back to you to close.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll probably have about 10, yeah, maybe
Okay,
10 minutes, 15
that's
minutes
that.
for Q&A. So we have time. You did
Okay,
wonderful on time management. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So my mind is buzzing with so many questions, but I want to hold my questions, and we do this for the benefit of our attendees. So I'd love to get either reactions, what went through your mind as you were considering this, any comments you want to share, any questions. And is this, so we'll share the, yeah, if you could stay here, or uh, for the attendees, if you can tell us what slide you want KJ to bring up that will help you in coming up with your questions. So I'm
Mm.
going to give you some time to process. I'm monitoring the Q&A and the chat here. All right, so I have a question. I didn't quite follow what the small oval is in the legend to the right side of current state. Would you please explain? And I'm wondering,
Yes.
KJ, would
Mhm.
it be possible to show your filled out example? And then
Uh,
if it
yeah,
has
let's
an, I
do
don't know if it
that.
has an oval or not.
I think it does. Hold on. Well, I just ran through all my. Here, let me move this over so that way it's better. Move my present. Oh, it doesn't want to go over. That's interesting. Okay,
Yeah, this
so
one.
this
Yeah.
this is the complete, right? So the oval is basically just like a word bubble, right? Because it doesn't have a whole lot of real estate to call out all the details, but you may have a current state, but you want to put some context around it, or you have a future state, you want to put some context or some detailed goals around it, then you can do that. It's nothing more than a space for you to put some additional information about an item that you identified on the map. The example that I gave was, if you want to use this as an OKR session, you want to create OKRs. So the rounded rectangles can be your objectives. Excuse me. And then you can put your key results in those bubbles. So if you look at them together, you have your objectives and your key results in one place. That makes it easy to read, easy to process.
Yeah. So KJ, my takeaway, uh,
Mhm.
is it's almost like a sticky note, like a comment. So if you're on a Google Doc or
Hmm.
something or a mural, you just put a sticky note. So
Right.
the oval is more like here's a comment.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And then I wanted to want this tool to be very flexible, but also try to be consistent. That's why I created those legends. Um, it doesn't have to be that way, but I think this will provide a level of consistency as you're using it for different situations, for different conversations. Um, Having that kind of consistency is actually going to be helpful.
Okay. Let me check if there is a follow-up. So did that answer the question? If it did, Patrick, if you could give a confirmation, or if you have a follow-up question, please type it in the Q&A or chat panel. So while I'm waiting, um,
So
we
here's another thing. Maybe I'll share this one with the audience. So we talked about all of these. We actually have an exercise. We may not have, we probably don't have time, but I wanted to kind of show it to you in a minute here. But um, if you're on your computer, you can either scan the QR code or just type in a tiny URL, especially the second one where it says try agility map on Mural. So you can open it up and you can actually open up the template and then you will see all the details that I shared in one of the previous slides and you can drag them around and you have more information around that.
okay,
So
cool.
yeah,
I have a follow-up from Patrick. So Patrick
okay.
is hungry to get some more examples of what might go in the oval. So can you go back, please?
Mhm.
Can you go
Yeah,
back to your example? So,
sure.
so for example, here one is there's an oval for key results. I'm trying to think what would I put as a user? So, um,
Okay.
and
So
then yeah, you can chime in whichever one of
mm,
us gets an answer first. So if you look at
yeah.
this map, so imagine Patrick is facilitating in, let's say, a diagnostic session for his
Hmm.
client, and this is the map that they created. And they asked
Right.
Patrick, "Hey, Patrick, can you give me an example of what I would put in a bubble and where?" So,
Mm.
how would you like Patrick to answer in the context of this specific example?
So I would say you probably wouldn't lead with the bubble, right? You was in a session like that, you will say, okay, just think about the current state in terms of how the teams are working, how the products and services are doing. Do we have visibility from a business perspective and how's our organizational situation is? You will actually, they will be putting the current and future state using using the rectangles. But then, as you're going into trying to dive or unpack one of those items, that's when you say, "Oh, I see you have some details that are actually relevant or important for our conversation." Then you will move a bubble over as a generic situation, right? In this example, right, I said deliver improvements more often. Basically, that's just releasing software more often as a very um, simple example. And the key result in the bubble will say, okay, we're going to be doing monthly releases now instead of a quarterly release, right? So that's just a piece of detail you want to capture in that conversation. Um, and then you can use this after the session to develop something you're going to put into Jira or some other tools that your organization use. But this is more of a way of um, making sure your clients or your teams are having the right conversation and they're focusing on the right things in terms of the next step plan.
Yeah, and one other example I can think of is, um, let's say, reduce IT cost or more
Hmm.
make consuming news with my news 9 more enjoyable experience. Maybe the bubble could be use Gen AI, ethical Gen AI with safeguards or something
Hmm.
like that. So just additional
Exactly.
context. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
I have one more question. Can you provide more examples besides key results for that oval? What questions do we ask to determine which color to place items? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Good question. Oh, there are actually, it sounds like there are two questions, more examples of what to put in a bubble.
No,
Let,
no, more examples.
uh
Yeah, you're right. More examples besides key results for the role. Yes, I apologize. You're right.
yeah. And then the second one is which color or which quadrant to put it in, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I would say I would probably want to say you want to minimize the things you want to put in a bubble because you want use as a tool for conversation, for brainstorming. You really don't want to get bogged down too much on the details. That's number one. Number two, an example would be, let's say your team, let's say a current state, right? Is saying, um, probably as one of the examples I put here is, okay, we need 10 VPs to approve, to give their approval in order for us to put any code in production. And that is slowing us down, right? That can be a context you can put in a current state to say, okay, now
Ah.
we want to improve our release frequency, from a quarterly frequency to a monthly frequency. But one of the roadblocks is we have too many approvals. You may not have solution for that, but you just capture that piece to say, okay, in order to improve that, that's one of the roadblocks or one of the most important roadblocks we want to remove.
Mhm.
And then you just put a note there, and then that bubble will probably at a later conversation become a future state item in the organizational agility in terms of, or even the team agility in terms of, okay, we want to reduce the 10 approvals to 2 approvals, right? So you capture that, you probably don't have the time to find a solution, but then it's there, it's related to what you're talking about, then you can always come back and do that. Again, this tool, for the most part, is, I would say, related or more important for the participants than people who's not in the sessions, right? You can always clean it up to show it to somebody else. But I will say 95% of the usage or value of the tool is to help facilitate these kind of conversations and making sure we're not missing anything important. And the second one, where to put everything. So this is an attempt to really help give you some pointers, to know where to put things, either it's the quadrant or the different colors. So you can use this as a guide, and I can also make this available. So we gave some examples, right? Um, about how to say, okay, if it's related to certain things, this is where you want to put it. Again, I would emphasize that there's no right or wrong answer. Maybe moving an item from one place to another is the best learning in that moment for your team or your audience, in there. So, so in this example, you can see product releases, anything product and services related. You want to put it in the product agility quadrant. Anything related to agile practices, tools, team dynamics, roles. You want to put it in the team agility. Organizational agility is about culture, empowerment, sort of organizational level processes, cross departmental collaborations, that sort of thing, right? Dependencies that will always need to get escalated and things like that. And business agility is really about your business goals. Is it reducing ID cost or capture more market share or something else, right?
Okay.
Truly delight our users, everything else will come, right? Something like that. Um,
Yeah, so
mhm,
KJ, I apologize if I
mhm,
said quadrant. The
mhm.
question
Uh,
was, how do we determine which color? Okay,
okay, colors.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe briefly because then I have one important question which I want to address, and
Okay.
then we will
Sure.
wrap up. So brief response to
Mhm.
the color, and then I want to go to
Yeah.
another. Yeah.
So very quick way to sort of reversely look at which color to put your items. I would say 99% of agile practices and agile principles, are in the green. 90 or 80% of the traditional project-based waterfall type of getting things done is in orange. And there may be some sort of in between, but in that case, it really doesn't, it's not critical to say, hey, it doesn't have to be green or orange. It could be in both in some cases. So that's a very short answer for that question.
Yeah, and what helped me is you had this beautiful visual, I think, from Spiral Dynamics where you had simple
Hmm.
metaphors, right? So the
Hmm.
army, maybe there was company and there was family and organization. So my way
Yeah.
to answer that is it's a gut
Sorry.
feel. As long as the team is consistent in using the same approach to categorize in put things in the colors across the four,
Hmm.
I think that's your main intent, that you don't want
Right.
the team to be in a green zone, but the product is in an orange zone and
Hmm.
the
Exactly.
organization is in an amber zone. So I think your main
Hmm.
intent is to identify inconsistencies in colors across
Hmm.
quadrants. So as long as
Exactly.
they use a consistent approach to interpret these colors across all four quadrants, I think it will achieve the
Mm.
purpose of your map. Right? Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
great way to put it. Thanks.
Good. You're welcome. And then I have a very important question. How
Hmm.
to address resistance to addressing all of the four quadrants? And then there's did you say agile comms are top down? My recollection is that you said
Mm.
agile comms are bi-directional.
Yeah.
So that, maybe that's a low-hanging fruit. Is that a correct understanding that you said agile is bi-directional?
Yeah, yeah. If you look at what I'm sharing here, I think agile ways of information flow is typically, if you do it right, is bi-directional. The
Yes.
teams, the products has a very clear communication channel up the chain to the leaders, which oftentimes you don't have in orange or amber level
Yeah.
organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second part, if you can zoom back to your example, I've faced
Hmm.
this. So a lot of times when I am hired as
Hmm.
an enterprise agile coach,
Hmm.
the relationship between business and IT is very difficult. So my
Hmm.
boss, usually I'm on the tech side, so my boss will
Hmm.
say, Ravi, you just focus on team or product. And
Hmm.
we are not going to go talk to the C-suite about business or organizational because like
Yeah.
we are on the sitting on the kiddies table. That's like way above our
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
grade.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So the
yeah.
question is, do you have suggestions on how to address the resistance where somebody
Mm,
says, no, you stay in your lane, you just focus on one quadrant?
yeah. Yes. There are actually two ways of looking at it. One is, let's say if there are gravity, I think that's a term I picked up when I was working at Optum. If it's a gravity issue, we don't have control over, and we know it is in orange or even amber, that helps us to visualize and have a clear way of saying we need to lower our expectations and our goals in the team agility and product agility goals because we can't change the organizational agility. That's something we don't have control over. We can't influence. Let's not set up goals that we know it's not going to get achieved because with this visualization, you know you're not going to achieve it, right? This is one way of looking at it is to say, okay, lower our expectations so we don't get frustrated along the way because we know it's not going to happen. The other way is to say, okay, once you plot it out, I don't have a specific answer for it. Maybe you can show this to the decision makers that can make or have controls over organizational agility and say, unless we move this one item from orange to green, we won't be able to achieve the green results or the value delivery that the green activities or green items will deliver. Is that okay with you? If you want us to deliver this, we need you to be able to help us move this item from orange to green. That's another way to have a conversation. And because it's visual, it's less abstract. And then they can look at it, and oftentimes they'll go, at least they will understand it a little bit better than you just sharing it verbally or in an email. So
I,
those are my two quick response to that.
I love that. So if they're saying,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to release every month or every week, and then you say, well, I need the approvals to go down from 10 VPs to fewer, or
Mm-hmm.
make your
Mm-hmm.
VPs respond better. and
Right.
then their response is just shut up and stay in your lane, you don't get to talk to VPs, then you can say, okay,
Mhm.
choose one. Either you upgrade on the organizational quadrant or
Exactly.
you
Yep.
downgrade on the
Mhm.
product quadrant, but reconcile, or if you or help me understand how might we reconcile this. So maybe if we ask powerful
Yep.
questions, the team
Mhm.
won't get squeezed where one quadrant they are being stopped from doing what is being asked and another quadrant they are being
Mhm.
challenged or escalated upon.
Right.
So beautiful. All right,
Yep.
this is a very powerful tool, so thank you for to everyone for their powerful questions. And
Mhm.
we are just dipping our toes in the water. So if it resonated, you're curious, please request KJ, send a maybe LinkedIn request. uh,
Mhm.
and then if it makes sense, then maybe you can have a more in-depth conversation. And if you found this useful, help us amplify and elevate KJ's voice so
Mhm.
that more people who may benefit will hear about him. So KJ, thank you for the generous gift of your wisdom. This is an extremely powerful tool. To our attendees, thank you for your engagement, for the gift of community. There's nothing more
Mhm.
beautiful than being connected with each other during, especially during hard times. So thank you. I hope
Yeah.
you found this useful, and I hope to see you again. Until we meet again, thank you. Stay safe and stay calm and scrum on. Bye bye.
Thank you, Robbie. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.